What's up, guys? Derek from moreplatesmoredates.com. Today I'm going to be talking about diet, in particular the vertical diet. If you've heard of Stan Efferding, I'm sure you've probably heard of the vertical diet at some point. Basically what it is focused on recovery, but it's also for athletes, bodybuilders, powerlifters, etc. But it's also focused around fulfilling micronutrient needs, which is a very neglected area of bodybuilder diets in particular, who just, hit their macro allotments of the day, but then totally neglect all the other parts. My focus has shifted a lot from getting as big as possible to longevity, first of all, in terms of health, as well as staying injury free. So I don't go insane with stupidly crazy lifts anymore like I used to. I also don't go stupidly crazy with PEDs or food for that matter. I eat pretty close to maintenance year round. I try to stay under 10% year round. I've been looking a lot at gut health in the past year or so, more so recently after realizing it's directly linked to so much of, long-term health ramifications that people often think are caused by, like red meat or like fats, stuff like that. I'm starting to learn that a lot of it is just poor gut health, and a lot of that can be fixed with, fulfilling micronutrient needs and eating certain foods on a daily basis. And instead of trying to do, the classic bodybuilder thing that I've always done, which is, oh, well, you're missing something, just buy it off Amazon and throw it into your supplement regimen. I'm going to try and do it through diet. That's not like my main concern. A few of the things I want to address is the things that basically enticed me into this diet in the first place. Cognitive effects. So basically, my levels of mental clarity and focus is like one of the highest priority things for me nowadays. My focus has shifted a lot from just, going to the gym and working out and eating and going to university, which is what I did for probably 18 to 23, 5 years straight. And now it's a lot on building, being an entrepreneur, doing business, working, long days. And I need to be sharp and on the ball. And a lot of the time, if you are eating a subpar diet, especially a heavily carb dense one with crappy carbs, you'll notice that your insulin levels are all over the place, and it really negatively impacts your mental state. So, one thing I did was I stopped having carbs with breakfast, because you'll notice if you have a carb dense meal, especially a high glycemic one, right when you wake up, you're going to be, a zombie for your first 4 hours. And then that's why people have to go have, their coffee, and they have to have this, and they have to have an energy drink and such, because they're basically screwing themselves with diet and then trying to fix it with drugs, and then screwing themselves with diet and trying to fix it with supplements, and back and forth. It's just like a vicious cycle. And I'm not as bad as the average person, obviously, because I'm aware of these things to a great extent, but I don't want to deal with it in any capacity anymore. So I'm trying to get an optimized diet in place to basically have me locked in all day and not have to worry about crashes, because those really kill productivity. I'm actually very good at not giving into cravings, especially when you've primed your metabolism properly, so you're eating enough food that you're not starving all the time. So it's not that bad, but a lot of the times I will choose a carb source which my body doesn't agree with, simply for the taste. And I've sort of noticed myself shifting towards not if it fits your macros, but closer to that sort of diet style. I still hit what I need to hit, but some of my choices of foods aren't as good as they would have been back in my super strict days. Yeah, I want to change that now. That's the main thing. Another thing is that really hit home with me is the sodium intake thing. So I've never actually counted how much sodium I'm having in a day. I always salt my food. I know sodium is a major key for muscular fullness and actually like retaining that fluid intramuscular, and common misconception that sodium's bad, it'll bloat you, such and such. I was already aware of that, but I wasn't really grasping how much I could get away with using. Like, I know I watched one of Stan's videos and he was talking about having like 8 to 12 grams of sodium per day or something like that. And like, there's no chance I'm even getting close to that. I don't have the same sodium needs as he does, obviously, but I have higher needs than I've been using. And I want to see what kind of difference it makes on my body composition when I start adding it in properly to my diet, having enough potassium, having a balanced level of, water, potassium, sodium, all the things that I haven't even really counted. Like, I make sure I drink enough water, but I've never counted sodium. So that's another thing I'm going to be trying. Well, it's part of the diet, so it's mandatory. I'm going to make sure I get enough sodium in. Having iodine from food sources, that's something I've never focused on before, and it's heavily encouraged in this diet to make sure you're getting enough iodine in. I've always got it through my multivitamin. However, one major mistake I made is I've probably relied far too heavily on thyroid hormone in the past, and that's something I don't want to do anymore. It's just not good if you don't need to, you know what I mean? So, anytime I've done a cut phase in the past, I've used a bit of T3 here and there, but in the past year or so, I've used it more than I should, and it's for like extended periods of time. There's sort of like a fear of coming off and bouncing back and rebounding in fat, and if you have a healthy thyroid to begin with naturally, you shouldn't have to be supplementing with T3 to stay high normal. I want to do that with diet and make sure I'm getting, promoting, high thyroid function through natural means as opposed to artificially enhancing myself anymore. So I'm going to be measuring body temperature and my thyroid levels. I've already got a baseline blood work to go off of for that as well. There's a few things I wanted to address with the diet as well. HDL. I have low HDL levels, which I think is pretty common amongst bodybuilders, to be honest, especially guys who have used testosterone before, or gear in general. Want to try and bring that up. Try using I have like supplements that help to some extent, but a lot of it is lifestyle, diet related, and I want to promote, boosting that up to where it should be instead of just, leaving it like I have for a long time. So HDL needs to go up. Hopefully I can address that to some extent or fully with this diet. Just a first impression of the diet, the concept seems simple, hit micronutrient needs and eat foods that don't irritate your gut, and you digest easily, and get enough protein in and work out hard. It's not like it gets that much more complicated than that, but I think there's like a huge misconception about what foods are. There's like a difference between food that's like perceived as healthy and food that's actually going to agree with your digestive system. So it's kind of like you want to find that intersection of both. Like, I actually want to spend time like hitting everything properly and cooking everything and using high quality food sources as opposed to like, stuff that's gonna last on the shelf for 2 years because it's so like artificial. Anyways, that's like the main goals of the diet are maximizing thyroid function naturally, hitting micronutrient needs, improving cognitive function. As far as like recovery and strength and stuff like that, I already hit my macronutrient needs and stuff like that. So I'm not really, I'm not going to be disappointed if this diet doesn't like all of a sudden radically change how my body responds to, training and, growing and stuff like that. Cause I'm content where I'm at. Sure, I'd like to pack on another 10, 20 pounds of muscle. Who wouldn't? But I don't want to put the stress of all the additional androgens on my system that I would need to achieve that, honestly, because I'm kind of peaked for the level of hormones I'm willing to use. to some extent. Obviously, that's to be determined through perhaps this diet, because maybe things will improve to some extent. But, I've been training for almost 10 years now, and I have a pretty good idea of what I'm doing. So even if everything stays the same with body composition, if I can improve the cognitive function, improve thyroid, or even, one of those, I'd be pretty satisfied. And then hitting micronutrient needs is just like peace of mind, because you're doing what you should be doing to maximize your longevity via diet. So anyways, gonna get baseline bloods done, which I've actually already done. I'll do another video on that. Going to be taking baseline temperature readings in the morning, going to, as well as blood pressure and resting heart rate, because I'm kind of interested to see what happens with that. Ideally, I'd like to decrease my resting heart rate, because I don't like how high it is right now. It's not high. Tachycardia is classified as 100 beats per minute. Resting would be, you'd be tachycardic, or however you pronounce it. I'm like 65 to 70, which isn't bad, but typically, you'll have like a marathon runner or something, his resting heart rate's like 40s. I don't expect to get that low, because I'm holding probably a super physiological amount of muscle. So I don't expect to have like an endurance athlete's heart rate, but I do hope to drop mine to some extent. If I was in the low 60s or the high 50s, I'd be really happy. I don't know if this can be addressed through the diet and like the cardio stuff, because I've done HIIT before, but I tend to favor low intensity steady state, and this plan encourages HIIT as opposed to LIS, low intensity. And I'm gonna see if I can, because HIIT's the one that actually improves cardiovascular health, as opposed to LIS is just like focused only on fat loss for the most part, and protecting muscle. But anyway, so I'm gonna try more of that too, see if that helps. And I don't know if I'm missing anything as far as just like first impressions of the diet. So I bought it, not just, going off of free videos. He gives out so much free content that it's kind of insane when guys complain when this guy talks about his products, because it's like, this guy's put out information that I'd pay thousands of dollars for if the internet didn't exist, and it's just sitting there for free. And then people complain when he talks about his stuff for like 2 minutes. So anyways, realistically, all the stuff I got out of the diet, it was kind of like information you could absorb through free stuff that he puts out, but just, having it in one place, a nice little ebook. It's nice, and obviously it's good to be able to compensate this guy for putting out amazing information, because I feel like too many people just expect this stuff to be free because it's the internet and you can find stuff for free on the internet. But this is information that you would have otherwise had to pay. You would never have even learned if the internet didn't exist. And these guys are spent years collecting this information, going through trial and error, paying for blood work themselves, researching, experimenting on themselves to come up with like a turnkey formula for you. And hearing a guy even do an ad for like 2 minutes is too much for you. Like, to me, it's kind of baffling how people think nowadays. But anyways, for only $100, it's a steal in my opinion. Even if it doesn't work the way I want, I learned a lot from the videos and reading the diet through thoroughly. So I don't know, hoping for good things, optimistic. But anyways, I'm gonna do a log on my website, moreplatesmoredates.com, as well as on my YouTube channel, and probably my Facebook. Anywhere else I'll post it. I'll post it on all the platforms I can. And yeah, go through start to finish from kind of my review once it's done. Blood work before and after. If I've achieved the goals I set out to do with the diet itself. So anyways, it's kind of like an introduction / overview of what I'm going to be doing, plans in the future. So yeah, talk to you guys soon.